Hello everybody from Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. Happy New Year from both Rob and myself. Happy New Year. Rob, tell everybody Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season, and I hope that you got together with family and friends and enjoyed every minute of it. I wish you prosperity, health, and happiness for the new year. This is what we have been up to over the holiday season, aside from growing our microgreens. We have decided that we wanted to try our hand at some hydroponics. And in front of you, we have on the top shelf, these are actual plants that were taken from our microgreen trays. Just before Christmas, I tried some cilantro, some basil, some amaranth. I tried carrots and a few other things, dill. And I found that the cilantro, the dill, the carrots really held on to their seed husks. And because of that, they did not make wonderful microgreens. I have read and I have seen that some people use perlite to knock off the seed husks. I tried some on some beets recently without success doing that. But anyways, so we had a few trays of dill and cilantro and some basil. The basil did really well as a microgreen, but we still pulled some from the trays to try in our hydroponics setup. We are trying dill, we are trying basil, cilantro, and if you come over here, Rob, we can show them this spot right here. I have recently put in an amaranth to see how it turns out at full maturity. This is the crocky method of hydroponics. There are about three forms of hydroponics, Rob?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 different. I mean, they're all similar but different, if that makes sense. Some of them you need oxygen.
Well, I think you need oxygen with all of them. It's just the way you get the oxygen that's different.
Yeah.
This is the crocky method, and what a plant needs to survive is they need light, oxygen, and nutrients, but oxygen and what's the other one? Nitrogen. Sorry, draw a blank for a second. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. So they need light, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, and nutrients.
Lots of love.
And lots of love, light. Okay, so if a plant has all of those things, they don't need dirt. Sometimes the dirt can be a detriment to them. I've grown tomatoes in the past, and I've tried growing tomatoes in my garden, and they work wonderful as long as they're in the ground, but you put them in a pot and they become root bound and they don't produce well. When you grow hydroponically, the roots do not need as much room and they don't have to work as hard to gain the nutrients from the water. We are using hydroponic methods only in this experiment. We are using kelp as a fertilizer, and we are going to stay hydroponic and you only use natural fertilizers. And as you can see, I'm actually very happy with this top. I don't know how well you can see with the light. This is dill. This is it was planted actually probably well after the other ones. This was the beginning of December. This is probably about the middle of December. Some of our first efforts didn't do well. I found when you pulled your microgreens from the soil, you actually needed to put them in some water because they needed to transition from the dirt to the hydroponics. So we took the microgreens from the dirt. We kind of loosened the dirt around the roots and took them out and put them into the water and let them settle for a few days, and then we took them from that and we placed them into our hydroponic method. This is actually a downspout that has been transitioned into a planter. and it's doing quite well. If you can see the dill in the back, has been here for a much longer time, and you can see the baby coming up here. It's getting, the shoots are getting thicker and more vibrant, and the fragrance is much more lovely.
Pull the roots out, or pull the cup up so people can see.
I was going to, as we move down. We're going to get to that part now. As you move down, you'll see I have different kinds of basil here. This one here we'll start with. This is the common type that everybody uses, and it's the fastest growing. This is Genovese. Genovese basil is a really nice basil. It's used in a lot of sauces and stuff like that. Sorry, just give me a second here.
I'll just show you the roots here.
Yeah, the roots on that Genovese is really, really nice. I'm very happy with the way it's growing.
There's the root system.
You can tell when your roots are healthy because they're very white. As long as the roots are really, really white and full, you know your plant is doing well.
They just go and go and go.
And that was started from a microgreen.
Yeah.
And I don't think I even put that one in water. I put that one straight in. Now, you can see that the cup that it's in has slats in it. We did do an experiment because we wanted to try to recycle. So we got some plastic shot glasses, and we cut the bottoms out and we put them in, and the plants didn't do as well in those shot glasses because they did not have the slats cut into them. The reason these slats are there is to provide air and oxygen to the roots. Now, the difference between this method and the one that uses air stone in the water is you have to leave an air space between the fluid, between the liquid in the pipe and the top of the root base, because the plant develops air roots. And in those air roots, it takes in things like its nitrogen and its oxygen. And yes, plants use oxygen as well as nitrogen, but they are carbon dioxide. I'm saying that wrong. So they use carbon dioxide and oxygen, and they release both into the air. And a plant uses more carbon dioxide than it does oxygen, but they do take in both of those gases. Rob wants to say something.
Let me show you guys here in the downspouts. These are just Home Depot specials. Don't know if you can see inside there. On the downspout, it's just got liquid kelp and water. We only filled it up about roughly halfway. I'm not sure how it shows up on your end, but the downspout's only about half full of water. It is like a plastic type of downspout. So yeah, you don't fill the downspout up all the way. We saw a guy on YouTube that was doing this. He loves doing bok choy in it. And then what we'll do is, again, it's a Home Depot special, right? You just fold the ends up, you heat it up, fold the ends up.
We'll do a video on how to make one later on.
Or we'll link his. He's really good.
Okay, so now we have cilantro. Now if you come back here with me, Rob, in this corner over here.
Let me go over here.
This one here we planted at the same time as the big Genovese basil that we have growing. Well, it's not big, but it's bigger than the rest of them. Now this is one that we realized the whole problem with the little tiny shot cup, because like I explained to Rob, the shot cup had an air pocket in it, and once that air pocket used up all its gases like the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, the plant was not able to get any, and there was no water flow or air flow through that cup. So this plant actually struggled for a little while to gain any ground. Once we took that cup out and replaced it with the actual, these are the store-bought ones that you get at any hydroponics store, or you can get them at any grow store, or online you can buy them if you have no grow stores near you. Once we did that, this cilantro took off, and it's been doing really well ever since we took it off, and you can see the roots on it. Again, they go and go and go. And they just love this method, and the plant doesn't have to fight as hard for its nutrients. And we had a few that didn't do well, so you'll see some smaller plants in here. Those ones are because we had to replace a few because we did try the shot cup method, and those plants didn't fare as well, and some of them perished. But ultimately, things are doing well. Back to the basil. This is Genovese basil. You can see the big, beautiful, puffy leaves. It has a tiny little point on the end, but this is how you recognize Genovese. And if you move on over to this one here is called cinnamon basil. Now, cinnamon basil is really good when you use, they're lovely for garnish and for teas.
Yeah, it gives a bit of a cinnamon taste. The leaves have a bit of a cinnamon taste when you make it into a tea.
Yeah, so this one here is not so much for sauces as the Genovese is, but it's more for teas and garnish. And it's just a really nice, and you can see the difference here. This leaf here comes to a very big point on the end.
Yeah. Let me just turn it, maybe give a different view of it. Instead of a... So it doesn't quite have the cup
Puffiness
that this one here does. This one here is just amazing.
When they're really small, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, because if you notice, the new leaves on the Genovese aren't puffy, and they do come to a point. And the same here, the new leaves on the cinnamon basil are a little bit puffier, so sometimes when they're really little, it's hard to tell the difference. You need to wait till they get to much more mature leaf, and then you can really see the difference in the basil. Yeah. Now, one thing I wanted to point out before we move to the bottom shelf is how well the dill does in this system. Now, this is the first set of true leaves, and we have second set. Now look at this third coming out. Look how full and fluffy that fern leaf is. Isn't that beautiful? I am really, really pleased with the way this hydroponic system is going for mature plants. I am really, really impressed. And the nice thing about it is the only power you're putting out is your lights.
Yeah, we don't have any pumps. We don't have anything but liquid kelp, which is all organic. So it's just a little bit of light, and that's pretty much it.
And all you have to do is keep an eye on your water levels and top off when need be. And once every couple weeks, you add a little bit of fertilizer. We use kelp.
Yeah, we do that every 14 days. We just top it up, check our water levels.
Okay, now we're going to move to the bottom shelf. These were all planted from seed, and they were planted December 16th. We have moved some of them to jars earlier, like the back row, as you can see in the very far back there. I'm going to point, this one here is broccoli. Here's another broccoli. And we have red Russian kale here. I have another red Russian kale over here as well. These ones were moved here to the bottles probably a week ago. So they've already become accustomed to the bottle, and they're doing really well. And we keep the lights about 4 inches away. Some of the lights we've moved up just for the video so everybody can see. Now you can see a red Russian kale in the corner over there. It's really doing wonderful. We are using, this is, if you can see the shiny stuff, it's all insulation that has styrofoam insulation that has shiny tinfoil type stuff on one side, and it's really, really good. And if you come forward a little bit, you can see the back row. You can see the back row. We have some Swiss chard. This was planted yesterday. It's starting to pick up. It was just in the Rockwell cube in a flat. It was starting to get a little peaked. I put it in this jar last night with some kelp, and it's really, really picked up. You can see the new first leaves coming up. It was laying down flat until I put it in the jar, and now it's picked right up. If you
or avocado.
Oh, yeah. I had some avocados the last couple of days, and I thought, you know what, I'm planting a few of these avocado seeds to see where they go.
Little arugula. We've already taken a little bit off.
That was planted also from a microgreen tray of a mixed blend.
So what we're doing is
This Swiss chard over here has actually been in the jar a lot longer, and you can see how much it's come along.
yeah. What we do is we're trying different things, different methods. This right here on the arugula, it's just a recycled tea bottle, right?
Iced tea.
I mean, iced tea. You guys don't need to spend a fortune. You don't need to spend anything except on a little bit of seed.
And these little cups that we have in here, this one here, I need to add some water. It needs to be up just a little bit more into the net cup. These net cups were only like 25 cents a piece where I buy them at my grocery store. They're really not a huge expense.
Well, I mean, the water's free pretty much.
These ones here, these are the 2-inch net cups, and they only ran me, I think they were 55 cents a piece. So I got 30 of them and 30 the bigger rock wool cubes. It only cost me $33. So it's not a huge expense. And the jars, you can pick up these jars at most secondhand stores. I've even got the really big ones at secondhand stores. So again, if you want to try a system like this, I think the most expensive thing you're going to buy is your lights. One of these ballasts, we buy these ballasts at Home Depot here in Canada.
Yeah, I think
they're shop lights.
I think it was Kim.
Hang on, they're shop lights.
So this is for Kim. She asked us what kind of lights we use. So yeah, they're just good old Home Depot 4-footers. Right, can I show you that? And then we use the T8 bulbs.
Well, actually we use the plant and aquarium bulb, and it's only like $8.
Yeah.
We have found that this is better than the lights we have bought at the grocery stores. We have bought lights from the grocery stores. If you give me a second, I'll go and get
no worries. I'm just showing everybody T8. Usually Sandra does all the videoing herself, so yeah, that was for Kim. She'd asked us.
This is another one that we have.
Hang on, don't move it. This is another one we use for microgreens.
But these ones are actually fairly expensive, and I find that they're not as good because this is a single light system.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get one light, and it's far more expensive. I think I pay just as much for this one light as I do for the ballast and the 2 lights.
So, yeah.
So, and I find that the ballast and the 2 lights that have, like, they're 2 aquarium / plant lights, and both of those lights, they do better than the ones that I've bought at the grocery store. They're brighter. The plants like them more. You can actually get your plants to flower if you want to.
One thing that we like is we like the chains here. It's really simple. I just hook them through. I take a pair of pliers. I bend this closed, and then we have just a carabiner here, and we hang it from the top. So if we need to, we unhook it, and we can
higher, lower it, or raise it.
Raise it, lower it, right? So it's all about being simple and easy and quick, right? Because your time is worth money.
It is.
Right. So.
And the thing I like about the hydroponics and the croquet method is, it's basically you put the water in, they self-water themselves. The nutrients is just, if you can see that if you get up close to those jars, Rob, you can see that the jars are a little cloudy. The only reason they're cloudy is because we put kelp in them.
That's the root system for the garlic. It's growing like crazy. There's the other garlic. You can see those roots.
You can come out here and go lower so we can see that what I was talking about.
Okay, so there's your cloudy.
That's because we added just a few drops of kelp. When you first start adding your fertilizer to your hydroponics plants, you have to start with low amounts because you can shock the plant and it can die. So you start with a couple of drops, like 2 or 3 drops to the jar, and then you, as the plant gets bigger and the leaves get bigger, you can amp up. You can actually see when your plant is becoming nutrient deprived because the leaves start to look different.
So here's our basil. I'll show you guys.
And that's just been in a few days. You can see the roots have really taken off. When I first put that basil in there, there was no roots. They were barely sticking through my
net cup.
No, they were barely sticking through the rock wool.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And since they went into the cups, the roots have shot through and they're doing their job.
Here's some Swiss chard.
Again, the roots are starting to make their way through.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I'm really happy with this method. Really happy.
These are crazy root systems. Like, those things are thick.
That's just a clove of garlic that I got from the grocery store, and Rob wanted to try growing garlic hydroponically. So I'm like, here, these are growing, try them.
Yeah.
You know, and he stuck them in, and they're busy making roots right now, so there's not a lot on the top. As we know, we have to grow the roots before we shoot out the top. And from what we've heard, the garlic will form on the top of the little sponge thing that we've got in there.
Yeah. Now that right there is, we borrowed that idea from the same gentleman. I'll have to give his name the next time we do a video. That is just a pool noodle. You know those things that you wrap around you so that you don't sink into the pool? Yeah, it's just a pool noodle. It's the cheap way to go. I don't know where he got the idea from or if it's his idea, but kudos, very clever. So what we're trying to show you guys is there's just different ways, different methods that are cheap and easy. You know, like, we have just some basic rocks, right? Nothing fancy. You know,
the rocks are just for stability for the rock wool cube, because we put a 1-inch rock wool cube into a 2-inch net cup.
So there's your rock, there's your cube.
There's your rock wool cube right there.
And we use the rocks to keep the light out.
Well, the light out plus to give the rock wool stability.
Yeah.
Because you really don't, unless you're putting these in sunlight, this is part of our experiment as well. We've heard that sunlight is where the algae is created. Okay? If you're only growing hydroponically with indoor lights, algae should not be a problem. This is part of the experiment. We will update you if that develops or if it doesn't develop.
Well, that's the thing about being, you know, designing food, right? It's just finding out what works, finding out what doesn't, finding out what's the cheapest.
This here is what we call red Reuben basil. Red Reuben basil is a pungent flavor, and it's wonderful addition to salads and vinegars. So I got actually the seed from West Coast for my basil. Actually, a lot of the seed came from West Coast seeds. The basil was what they call a kitchen basil blend. And it's a lucky guess for me as we're growing them, because the seeds are all mixed together, so I have to figure out what they are. The only thing was the red Reuben is red. The Genovese and the cinnamon basil, I have to wait to see what they turn into. That's lemon balm that Rob is showing you right there. If you can get closer to the leaf, then maybe they can see how the leaf is roughly like that. They start out looking a lot like basil. when they first come up, and then the leaves change a little bit different. So this one's a bit bigger. But the cotyledons, when they're up beside the basil, look just like the basil. Swiss chard, that one's doing really well. I'm loving my broccoli back there. I can't wait to actually see if I can bring a broccoli. If you can move on a little further back here. These two here, I'm hoping that I actually get some broccoli off of those. We will update you on that for sure.
Anyways, guys, we'll leave that with you.
I wanted to make one last little statement here. We really like it when people comment on our YouTube channel, preferably good comments. We would like to give a shout out to a couple of viewers from Australia. We have Kim Rosh. That's Kim, and Rosh is R-A-U-C-H. I apologize if I'm not saying your name correctly. You asked the question about the lights. Hope we've answered that. And Pepe Thasos. I'm sorry if I did not pronounce your name right. Thank you for the positive comments.
Yeah, spell his last name.
Last name was F-A-S-S-O-S. We would really like to thank you for your positive comments. And if you like our page, please hit the like button. If you would follow us, that would be wonderful as well. And if you have any questions on what we've just shown you or microgreens, please leave the questions in the comments below.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, you know, I do work a full-time job, so I do try and get to the questions and stuff as quick as I can. So don't worry, if they're there, we'll try and get them answered ASAP. And to everybody out in Australia, way to go.
Thanks again. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you have wonderful life, prosperity, health, and happiness we send your way.
Happy New Year, everybody. Bye-bye.